Most people say they want respect. What they actually seek is reassurance, to be noticed, to be acknowledged, to be approved. This need operates quietly, but it governs behavior. Observe how your state shifts around validation. Praise lifts you. Silence unsettles you. Criticism lingers longer than it should. Your inner balance moves with external response. That is not confidence. That is exposure. Validation feels harmless because it arrives as something positive, but dependence does not require negativity, only reliance. The moment praise affects your stability, authority has already moved. You are no longer positioned within yourself. You are positioned inside other people's reactions. This explains the pattern. Approval feels energizing. Absence feels heavy. The mind begins to monitor feedback. Did they notice? Did it register? Did it matter? Attention turns outward. Over time, behavior adapts, not deliberately, automatically. You adjust how you speak, what you share, what you withhold. Praise becomes guidance. Silence becomes correction. This is the mechanism. The more validation you depend on, the less independent your judgment becomes. You stop asking, "Is this correct?" You start asking, "Is this accepted?" That shift is subtle and expensive because approval is unstable. It changes with mood, with context, with people who do not carry your standards. When your stability depends on praise, your direction cannot remain steady. You may label this motivation, encouragement, connection, but examine it honestly. If the absence of praise weakens you, then praise is not support, it is leverage. And leverage, even when pleasant, erodes self-rule. In the next phase, we will examine how validation replaces judgment and why detaching from praise is not withdrawal, but restoration of authority. Validation does not arrive as control, it arrives as approval. That is why it bypasses resistance. A quiet substitution takes place, judgment recedes, reaction advances. Instead of evaluating actions by principle, the mind evaluates response. Did this land well? Was it received positively? Did it gain approval? This is the reversal. Judgment asks, is this correct? Is this aligned? Validation asks, was this liked? Once that question changes, authority shifts. Behavior is no longer guided by standards, it is guided by feedback. This shift is gradual, almost invisible. Over time, the mind internalizes a rule. What is praised is safe. What is ignored is wrong. That rule is unstable. Praise fluctuates with mood, with context, with people who do not share your standards. When judgment yields to validation, clarity becomes conditional. You hesitate when approval is uncertain. You perform when approval is likely. Dependence forms quietly. The mind scans outward before it decides inward. That scan weakens authority. You stop asking, what should be done? You start asking, how will this be received? This is why detachment feels uncomfortable at first. It removes a familiar signal. Without validation, judgment must stand alone. And judgment, when underused, feels exposed. But that exposure is not risk, it is restoration. In the next phase, we will reframe validation correctly and show why approval must be treated as information, not instruction. Detaching from validation does not mean withdrawal. It means relocating authority. Praise is not deception. It is incomplete information. When praise is treated as instruction, judgment weakens. When it is treated as data, judgment remains intact. This is the correction. You do not reject approval. You lower its rank. Approval may register. It may be acknowledged. It does not decide. The governing question changes, not, do they approve of this, but, is this correct by my standard? That question restores command. Validation moves outward. Judgment moves inward. Stability follows. Your behavior no longer rises with praise or falls with silence. You can receive approval without expansion. You can receive silence without doubt. You can receive criticism without distortion. Because authority has returned to its proper place, this creates a different internal posture, quiet, grounded, unreactive. You stop shaping yourself to be received well. You act to remain aligned. This is the difference between performance and integrity. Once judgment is reclaimed, validation loses urgency. It becomes optional, not necessary, and what is optional cannot command you. In the next phase, we will apply this posture in real interactions and show how to remain steady in the presence of praise, silence, or disapproval. Detachment is tested in interaction, not in solitude. Praise arrives, silence arrives, criticism arrives. Each invites a reaction. Application begins with awareness. When feedback appears, notice the internal shift, a lift, a drop, an urge to clarify, an urge to adjust. Do not follow the shift, observe it. Observation restores distance. Respond only after judgment is present, not to impress, not to defend, not to manage perception. Respond to remain aligned. Praise does not require amplification. Silence does not require correction. Criticism does not require collapse. Each is information, nothing more. Most people fail here. They answer feedback immediately, emotionally, automatically. Detachment introduces delay, not avoidance. Authority. Inside that delay, ask one question: does this require action or only acknowledgement? Often acknowledgement is sufficient. When action is necessary, it comes from judgment, not reaction. The effect is immediate. The urge to please weakens. The urge to explain fades. Interactions simplify. Energy returns. Stability holds. You are no longer managing impressions. You are maintaining standards. This is detachment in practice. Quiet, undramatic, effective. In the final phase, we will integrate this posture into identity and close the loop between judgment, validation, and inner stability. At this stage, detachment must become a position, not something you remember, something you operate from. You are no longer someone who reacts to validation. You are someone who evaluates it. Praise may arrive, silence may remain, disapproval may surface. None of these determine your posture. Judgment does. This changes how approval feels. It becomes lighter, less charged, less necessary, because it no longer carries authority. You are not rejecting connection. You are refusing dependence. That distinction restores stability. When validation is placed correctly, clarity remains intact. Direction remains intact. Self-respect remains intact. This is not emotional distance. It is inner alignment. Over time, the system adapts. Praise no longer inflates. Silence no longer unsettles. Criticism no longer destabilizes. Judgment becomes default. This is how validation stops steering behavior and returns to what it should be: information, nothing more. If this reframing corrected how you relate to praise, acknowledge that shift. And if this discipline-based training is useful to you, continue with the next phase. In the next video, we confront a quieter but more corrosive force: envy and comparison, and how Stoics dismantled them without denial, suppression, or self-deception. Continue with the next video in this series.